Welcome back. My name's Levi from the Isle Revelation. Some of you may know me as Paper Plane on Discord. And today we're going to be doing a little bit of foliage. We'll try maybe one or two different methods. One that I use mostly, and maybe we'll get into some PCG. I'm not totally sure yet. We'll see when we get there. And also, I'll go through everything that I've done so far, changing the map and adding a few things in, and give you an idea of what we're going to be doing later. And don't forget to check out the Oceanology for free video, because we have quite a few people. Thank you very much for subscribing to that one. And I'm giving away 2 copies of Oceanology, and that's going on for another 12 days. So if you look up in the top, you'll see a link to that, or if you look down the description, you can get to the link to that video there as well, and go ahead and sign up, and who knows, Oceanology for free, what's better than that? So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Let's just do a little quick overview. So everything that I've been making so far, I've just added in the lakes. Just a representation right now, just throw them in there. We're going to have some rivers going through. We may get to that by the end of this video. I'm not totally sure. It might take a little while to get some of this foliage in, but we'll see. I've added quite a bit of variation in the grass, and also the... So we have some variation here. This is the forest biome area, or the forest layer. And if we go all the way back up here, you'll see quite a bit more of that. That's where our bigger trees will be, and we'll have a lot denser area there. This is almost all forest. And it also goes back into the grass area, which will have more bushy types of trees and bushes, things of that nature. But for right now, the first thing I want to get squared away right away is just getting this beaches done a little bit, because I've done quite a bit of work on them, and I kind of want to flesh them out a little more and see if I can get them, I don't know, a little more interesting. They're kind of cool right now, but we can go even more. So that's what we're going to do. And the first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go up to our edit. And if we go into our editor preferences, we can search. We should just search procedural, and it should pop up procedural foliage right here. So if you turn on procedural foliage, that'll enable the procedural foliage volumes, which is mostly the way I like to do it. Might get in a little bit of PCG. I just find that a little heavier sometimes when you're running it. So let's go ahead into the volume here. So if we grab a procedural volume and just pop it out here, go ahead and hit G so we can see it. So we are not going to be scaling this here on our scaler here. If you actually go down a little bit, you're going to see some scale brush settings. And right now we're going to go with 12,000. And we're going to copy that. We'll go 12,000, 12,000, 12,000. So we have a nice, good sized brush here to encompass just this area, so we can get our tests done, and then we'll do the rest of the beach. And we may actually have several of these bouncing around, so it just depends on what style we go with, or how much density we want in certain areas. Some places we might not want it at all. So for right now, let's go ahead, and the way that these work is we have to have a spawner. So if we go down a little bit, we're going to see the foliage spawner here. And this is going to control what foliage instances we're going to have spawned inside this volume. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and turn these off. We don't need BSP, and we don't need static, so that they don't spawn on top of our static meshes. We just want it to spawn on the landscape itself. So we can go ahead and create a new foliage spawner. So if we click here, we can go foliage spawner. And then we're going to go to our foliage. I added a new category here, or folder, and we have beach rocks. And we're going to put this in the... We're actually going to put this in the content. So if we go into content, we're going to have our foliage spawners. Did I create one yet? I did not. So we're going to go ahead and do a new folder, and this will be foliage spawners. And I actually think I put them here instead. Oh, I did. Spawners right there. So we're just going to go ahead and just get rid of that one. There's nothing in there. And we'll go up to content, grab our foliage spawner, which is right here. We'll put this into our foliage. Why are you not letting me move you? Well, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to delete it then. And then we'll go back into our foliage, and we'll go ahead and right click and put in foliage spawners. right, and then we can go ahead here. So we have a new procedural foliage spawner. So we're going to call this PFS for procedural foliage spawner underscore, and we'll call this beach rocks. That'll be our first one. Now we have beach rocks here. So if we go ahead and open that one up, we have a bunch of stuff in here. We're not going to really mess with any of this. This just has to do with the tiling and the random seed. You can change the seed and it'll automatically change where everything is placed. You can do the tile size as well. We're really not going to mess with that too much. The one we're going to mess with here is going to be the foliage type. So if we click that once, we need a foliage type. And we have some we're going to be using, but currently I don't have them as foliage yet. So if I go into our foliage and I go into beach rocks, I have two right here, but these are static meshes. And I need to convert them to a foliage. The easiest way I found to do that is just go ahead to the foliage tool. And then we can grab both of these and just drag them in, and then it'll ask us where we want to save them. We're going to go into beach rocks, and I have a folder here already made called Foliage, and I'll save number 1, and we'll go back into Foliage again, and I'll save number 2. So now if we go into Foliage, we have 2, and we're going to go ahead, we're going to add 1 in for right now to see what we get, like that, because it's actually going to be probably too dense. So if we go into our foliage spawner, we're going to have a whole lot of parameters here that we're going to get to change. And we have the density is going to be here. So we have our density and our fall off, collision, clustering, and our growth. So the one that we're going to be messing with specifically right now is probably going to be just the collision radius. We're going to make this like, say, 500. And that should probably do it. I'm going to put the seed steps down to 1, just because we don't need that much for rocks. And let's go ahead and set that up and see how many we get. Let's go ahead and click on it. So now that we have that set up, and if we go back in, we have our, let me get rid of this one. We have our foliage added, the type 1. Then we can go ahead and load unloaded areas, and then hit the resimulate button, which is going to take a few moments, and then you'll see we're going to get rocks spawning all over the place. So now we need to figure out ways to control where they're going to be. So in PCG, you had the little boxes there, so it kind of gives you a little bit more of a visual representation. In this particular instance, we don't have that, but what we do have is the first one is we have sand. So we have, this is the beach. And this one here is I believe this was the dunes is what I made it from. Let me verify real quick. So yeah, so this is the dunes, and where we're going to want it is going to be in the dunes area and not down by the beach. So an easy way to change that is if we go in here, we have an inclusion landscape layers. We can actually click that and then type out dunes like so, and we have a maximum inclusion landscape weight. So this will just depend on if you have areas like right here where the sand is blending into the dirt. There's different values here of, because there's sand in this area as well, but it's very, very low, and there's grass in this area as well, but it's also very, very low. So we're going to choose a fairly high value. So if we go up to like about 0.75, something like that, should be fine. We go ahead and save that, and then we go back in. Now we can go ahead and resimulate our spawner here. Let's go ahead and drop this into its own folder. Let's make sure we click this time, F2. This will be PFS spawners. That'll work just fine. And now if we go ahead and resimulate, you're going to see that they're only going to be here in this dirt area where we told it could be. And you won't see it down here in the, this is beach. You'll only see in the dunes, although we do have one little straggler here in the beach. And that's probably because there's just a little bit of the dunes here, a little more than we want. So we could actually go back in again, bring this all the way to 100. So it has to be 100% dunes for it to spawn. and then resimulate again. And this one for some reason is bugging. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove it. So if I go to landscape, grab my, that's not the right one. Go to the foliage. We'll go ahead and grab the erase button. We'll click on both of those and now it's gone. That was odd. I don't know why that one was bugging like that, but it does happen sometimes. You just got to kind of deal with it. So these are already set up the way that I want them to be. They already have the blending on them. And the way I found to do these the most is just to kind of get rid of the underlying area so that just the rocks are popping up. And the way we can do that is we can do some limits on where they spawn as far as if they're on a major slope, because sometimes they'll poke out. And we can also sink them down a little bit. So if we go back into, this is the one rock that we're working on. We can go back in here and we have a, we're going to use the line to normals. So it'll line to whatever normals there are. And we also have a ground slope angle. So we can actually bring that down a bit more. Like say 23 is fine. And the last one we got is right here. We have a Z offset. So what I want to do is I actually want to sink it down a little bit. So we're going to go down about maybe 10 or so. And our max will probably be about 8. Like that. And now we can actually bump up the collision radius a little bit. We'll bring it down to say 200 and see how many we get. This is not what we're going to use to control this completely, but for right now, this will work. So let's go ahead and resimulate now. So now you're going to see we have a lot more. And you'll see that they're more under the sand there. So that they look a little more like they belong. But they're kind of spread out all weird. That's not exactly how we want them to be. So let's go ahead and try and figure out why that is. So now if we just bring this back to 100 like we had it. So we have the spread variance and we have the average spread distance as well. So all of these control your number of steps, and your average spread distance and your spread variance will control how they clump together or how far apart they're going to be from each other, and how many iterations there's going to be. So a number of steps is going to be 3 per each one. So, and then there's the seeds. So there'll be 3 per iteration of this particular one. And then there'll be an extra one that's created that's a seedling, which is a younger age. That's how it's controlled in your size chart here. So you have your 1 to 3. So if we actually put all of them to 3, then they should always be, no matter what, the same size. So if we resimulate again, you'll see that they're all the same size because these are now all basically parents. But as you use a seed, you get children, and the children are younger, so they'll be a smaller size. The number of steps will be basically your parents, and then each one of those will have 1 child. So if we do 4 children, so we have 3 parents and 4 children, we should see a lot more smaller ones than we do the bigger ones. So if we resimulate, you'll see a lot more variation there. And that's very cool. So let's go ahead and put that back to where it was. We don't need that many. Just going to make this variance. So we can bring down our collision radius. So this size will just determine how far away it has to be before one collides with another, so they won't spawn on top of each other. Right now we have 100 centimeters. And if we put this down to like say 3 centimeters, we're going to get a ridiculous amount because it's going to say there can be more in this area. So if we resimulate, that didn't work for me. Let me see what I did wrong there. Oh, we still have our average spread distance. So the average spread distance will also determine how many can spread in a certain distance as well. You can actually read it right here for how many in a certain 10 by, I think it's 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter area. So we can bring that down as well and get even more in there. Let's go ahead and resimulate it. And we can also bring down our spread variance. And that should really bring it up to a few more. So that's all in well. Another problem we have is that we have our shade radius. So right now we don't have it as in can grow in shade. So this is saying that it does produce shade, and it will still have to have a 100 centimeter radius around the shade for it to spawn. But if we go ahead and check the can grow in shade, then it will grow. It will use the shade value also and grow inside that collision box for the shade itself. So if we resimulate again, you'll see them clumping together, because now they can actually grow in the same space even though that the shading is there. So we're actually getting where we want to be now. So we can actually bump these up a little bit higher, and this one as well. We're going to go a little higher on this one, a little lower on the shaded one, and see if we can get some little clumps together like that. That's getting much better. Much closer to where I want to be. And we can bring up our variance here a little bit. So we can actually state what the max age is, and we can start with our max initial age. So the max initial age means where's it going to start at? Is it going to start at the larger size, or will it start at the smaller size? Right now we just have a value of 0 to 10. But if we bring this up more, then you're going to see that we're going to get more of the larger ones and less of the smaller ones, because we're going to be starting up here in the graph a little bit more. So if we resimulate that, you'll see that we get the larger ones spread out, which works perfectly. Yes, I like that very much. So what we are going to do is we're actually going to bring this down to a value of 2, and we are going to pop this up to probably a value of, say, 5. And that will put 2 in a certain region and then 5 seeds that'll spread around it. And we can kind of bring that down a little bit more so we can get them closer together. And we're just trying to get them to kind of clump together, but in large clumps. Just about like that. That's almost perfect, actually. So that actually sets us up really well. Now what we're going to do is I'm actually going to bring the size variance back down, because I want these ones to actually stay kind of small. So if we go ahead and resimulate it again right now, you're going to see that these ones are going to stay a little bit smaller. If we play, they're, to be honest, these are actually too big. So we're going to go ahead and shrink those down even more, because I don't want them to be that big. Not this version. So we're going to bring this down to probably a 2 instead of a 3. And I'm going to see, I think that that will get us where we want to be. Let's grab the volume here. And let's see if that gets us back to a smaller. I still think those are a little too big. So we're going to bring down the initial to a point, say a 0.75 instead of 1. And we'll go ahead and resimulate those. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to copy over a lot of this information. Let's just run in here real quick and see how big they are. So that's better. They're still a little bit big for what I wanted. Actually, yeah, we're going to go ahead and drop them down a little bit more. We'll go to 0.55 instead. And let's go ahead and resimulate that. So there's a little bit of trial and error, but once you get them all where you want them, then you just do it one time on the whole area that you want it to go, and you're done. So go ahead and take a look there. Yeah, that's a little better. I might actually go ahead and bring this down to 1, because the older ones still are being a little bit on the large side. Go ahead and do it like that. We'll go back down and resimulate. There we go. That's much better. Perfect. And now you can see that they really blend in, because I'm using the RVTs on them to get rid of that base that they have. I mean, that base works and it does poke through in some spaces, but I just really want only the rocks to be the big outlier, not really the base or the ground cover that they had, since it doesn't match exactly 100% with our sand. So now what we're going to do is, let me see if I can get a little bit more clumping here. Let's go ahead and bring these down a little bit more, like so, and see if we can get some larger clumps. I want quite a few rocks, like so. And go ahead and resimulate that. That didn't give me many more. Let's go ahead and bring this up to about a 4. If we can get some larger clumpy area. There we go. Yeah, I like that. That's perfect. And I might actually spread them out a little bit more. So let's go ahead and kick these up a little higher. Bring up that spread variance a little. Go ahead and resimulate those. There we go. Might actually do that just a little bit more. A little bit of trial and error to get everything exactly the way you want. Spread that out a little bit. Yeah, I want these big open areas with plenty of rocks all over the place. So we might actually drop down this one to a 3. Leave the other one to a 4. We don't get quite so many. There we go. Now what we can do, since we have that one done, we can go ahead in here. We're gonna add an extra one now. We're gonna drop in the next one. And this next one, we're gonna copy a few of the parameters that we have here. So if we go up, we can drag this one down like this. And this is where the right shift click and the left shift click really plays dividends, because you can just grab them here and copy them over to get all of your information. They're the same. And we can do the same with this one. Copy it there. Go back down here with our collision radius. So this one is okay. I actually want to keep this one kind of high, because I'm going to bring this one up a little bit. I'm going to bring this to a 2 and a 3.5, because I do want to get this to be, these ones to be a little bit larger rocks than the ones we had, but I don't want too many of them. So we can go ahead and leave that for now. We have to also change the occlusion layer so that it's only on the dunes. And we can do that right there. That one didn't save. Oh, I didn't have to add like that. And then pop you back up here. Perfect. So now if we resimulate, we should see some larger rocks. But you're going to see that the larger rocks are kind of taking over, and we don't really want that. So one of the things that we can do is we can go down to the, where is it here? Priority 1. We have the overlap priority right here. So we can increase the priority of our foliage 1. So we're going to increase that one to, we have the overlap priority. We're going to increase that to a 0.1. Which means this will have the higher priority than the other one, if I remember correctly. And you'll see that we get less of the larger rocks and more of the smaller ones. And those large rocks are too big. Oh, I went 5.5. That would be why. Okay, that makes sense. So let's go to 2.5. I got the microphone here, so it's kind of hard to see those numbers. Let's go here. That's not horrible, but that is too much. Let's go ahead and bring these down to 1. And these ones can grow in shade as well. And resimulate. There we go. Now they'll clump together a little bit more. So we just want to get them a little more here and there, matching with the ones that are already there. Or already available. So we're going to go ahead. Let's actually kick it back up to a 2. And we're going to take this one and we're going to add a few more to this because there's not quite as many as I'd like. So let's go ahead back to 5 here. Go back to our map. Go ahead and resimulate. There we go. Now we got a nice rocky beach. So now the biggest problem that we're going to find is if we were to stretch this out over a very large area, we don't have any culling on it. So they're always there and they're going to take up a lot of information since there's going to be so many of these being made. We can go ahead and set our culling. So we do have a cull distance. We don't have any collision on these, which is fine for the type of item they are, but if you're doing trees and stuff, we'll use our collisions. So we have our cull distances here, and we can set our minimum maximum. These are actually nanite, so I probably would set these very far so that you don't see them pop in and out. If they're not nanite and they're a static mesh, they'll actually kind of fade in, fade out, depending on what the minimum and maximum cull value is. But nanites don't do that. So if you set the minimum to 0 and you set the maximum to, say, 2000, you will see them pop in and pop out quite drastic. So if we go ahead and go back into our map, yeah, you see them pop in like that. And you don't get that fade that you get with a... Yeah. But since they are nanite, we can actually have them on screen longer without being too adverse. So we can actually use that to our advantage. So I'm going to actually give these like a 25,000 cull distance. And these ones right here will be 32,000. So when we're far enough away, you'll be able to see them without too much problem, but you will see them pop in. But you can see as far away as they are, they don't really, you're not really going to pay much attention to that when you have lots of trees and stuff. And we're going to have quite a bit of palm trees and everything here as well. So one of the things we can do with this particular volume is we can go ahead and kind of move it down here like so. And we'll go ahead and stretch it out a bit. Go up here, I think this is the one. Yep, we'll go all the way across here, all the way across there like that. I think encompasses everything. And we can actually duplicate it and bring it over here for this beach as well. And we'll go even bigger on this one. So I don't want to get on these currently because I don't want the same kind of rocks there as we have here. So we'll just go ahead and get these so they're encompassing all of the beach that we want rocks on. May actually go a little bit further out. And then grab this one and make sure that we're where we want to be. And that actually looks pretty good. I mean, we could bring another little one over here just to have a little bit on this corner, since you will see it every once in a while. So that seems to work just fine. So now all we have to do is just go ahead and load the sections and go ahead and build them. And this one, so this one has too much gradient on it, the slope angle, so they're not actually going to build here anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of this one. That one's not going to be needed. So now we can go ahead, let's build this one. It's going to take a little bit longer because this is a bigger area. And there's a lot of mesh to build. And there goes those. And then we'll head over here. This one's even bigger, so there will probably be a little bit more. Load areas, resimulate mesh. There we go. And now we have all those loaded up. So if we go right down here and play, we should see some nice rocky beaches. Very, very cool. And we can add other stuff in as well, like oh, those are cool. Like any kind of items you might find on the beach, dollars, sand dollars, or say starfish, stuff like that as well. You can definitely pop on there and just put those pretty much anywhere you want. So, and one of the things we're going to do real quick, just to kind of get some stuff in here so we can look at it and see what happens and see how cool everything is we're going to... So there is an issue that I don't like. These really aren't that bad, but if you didn't want it to go up this high, you can also add a Z value so that it won't go above a certain Z value. This isn't that bad. It kind of clashes a little bit with the rocks we have up here, but it's not that bad. So I'm going to leave it be. But if you did go into them, you could go to your Z here, minimum, maximum, and you can set a maximum value so it won't go above that value. You can also set a minimum so it won't go below that value. So when I do a lot of stuff in the ocean, that's the one I'll use. I'll set my maximum to below the water surface at whatever depth I want, and then add everything in there. So that works just fine. Let's go ahead and close these out real quick. And for right now, we're going to add in probably the thing that sets everything off on the beach the best, and that's going to be the palm trees. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm going to grab my pen. All right, there we go. Back, got my pen all set up. So the way I like to do the palm trees is I paint those in because I want those to be a specific layer. You could do it with procedural volumes. You could do it with PCG. But I just find it easier and looks better, in my opinion, to paint them in just using the foliage tool. So we're actually going to pull out the foliage tool and we're going to do everything for those here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the trees that we want. So if I go down into my trees, I have several palm trees here that I want to use. I'm just going to drag them over here. And then we will make them in, we're going to add a new, let's go ahead and add a new folder. And these will be, we'll just call it foliage. And then we'll set them all inside that folder. Generally, I actually break up each type of tree into its own folder, but for this will work just fine. That's just so when I'm doing all the data tables for cutting the trees and stuff, I have them separated and they're easier to find instead of trying to root through, because this is only a few trees and I use a lot more. Go ahead and save in there. So now we have all of our, let's go ahead and kick these off. Now we have all of our trees here that we're going to be painting with. And we have plenty of variables here that we can mess with. So right now I just have all of them selected so I can do all of them at the same time. And one of the things I don't want to do with the trees, I don't want to align them to normal, but I will use a slight random yaw. We want that to go around so they'll be in different 360 degree direction. And I will use a slight pitch angle. So instead of using the normal, this will just give each tree a little bit of deviation on how much it'll pitch over, you know, like it's falling a little bit. And I usually just go for 8 degrees. That's my typical. And then we have our ground slope angle. This one also I will put down a bit because I don't really want these on very sloped areas where it's going up really steep. Another one we're going to do, we're not going to do any inclusion layers on this since we're painting it. We don't really have to worry about that too much. We do have a cull distance. I'm not going to worry about the cull distance on this right now. And we do want to set the collision. So we're going to go ahead and set the collision to block all so that you can't walk through the trees. And now we should be able to paint them. So we have here, we have a couple. We have our paint density at 0.0002. Typically it would be at like 1. You have your erase density at 0. And we have our brush size. So we're going to put our brush size fairly small so we don't get too many too fast. And we have this density right here at 100. That's going to make a very, it's going to make a lot of trees, thousands of trees extremely fast. So if we paint, let me go ahead, I'm on erase. So if we go ahead and paint, you're going to see we're going to get an absurd amount of trees. Very, very, very quickly. That is way too many. I mean, we have, what's that, 2, 4, 6, 8. We got 8,000 trees here right now. And yeah. So the way we're going to take care of that, if we go up to our erase, we go ahead and erase all of these. We're going to go ahead and we will select on our densities here. We can actually get fairly small amounts. You can actually do it with the paint density here, or you can do the density here. Now I do this one just so later if I have to repaint it, I know that the density is already set and I know it's set to the value that I need it. So I'm going to go about a 0.02 and then we're going to try that and see what kind of density we get now. So if we paint in, I'm on erase again. If we paint in, you'll see that we're getting a much better value. And it's not painting them too crazy all over the place. I could actually go a little bit higher. So right now, if you hold shift, you'll see it switch to eraser and you can erase really quickly and get rid of what we just painted. So we can do a couple more changes there. So I want to go with a smaller brush size and I'm going to bring the density up. Actually, I'm going to bring it up to about a 0.04 just so we can get these painted out quickly. And we can put a couple right here in this spot here. We'll go around like this. Let me get a bigger brush. Doesn't want to add as many as I want it to. So generally with the palm trees, I try to keep them right outside of the sand line. Because if you see the palm trees on the beach, you don't really often see them actually in the sand. They're usually right at the grass edge. So that's kind of where I try to keep them. And it doesn't really matter right now if we paint over these rocks. We can just quickly take those off without any issue. And we'll just keep on going around like this. We can even add a few like right here around these dirt areas. We'll put a couple in there. There's a few on the rocks, but we're going to worry about that in a few minutes. That's not a big deal. We can put a couple in here like so. And we'll build them all the way around here. A couple right here. This is just the way I do it. This is the method I generally use. And right now, see, it's not building right here because we have the angle set so that it won't build on something that's that high of an angle. So we can go ahead and add a few right in here. We'll go ahead and cover this since this is kind of a beach-related area. Put a couple there. Start walking up here. So this gets a little bit tougher here because we're really close to these rocks and they are a mesh. So these will actually spawn inside there using this method. But it's pretty easy to get rid of if you do run into that issue. Go ahead and add a couple here, add a couple there. And this will be pretty heavy since this is all main beach area. Like so. Grab a few more around here like this. So this is the bulk of our beach design. And this is pretty much the only time that I use the brush for the most part. Like this. So one of the issues you can run into is when you get lots and lots of trees, it's very easy to have an issue where it will invalidate on a save. You'll invalidate some of your mesh locations. Yeah, the instance locations. And then you have a pain of deleting them and re-adding them again because none of them are working properly. And that does become an extremely frustrating issue. So that works well. Let's go ahead to a little bit smaller one. We'll grab our eraser real quick and we're just going to run down on the beach. And we're going to see any of them that are in the sand like that, and we're going to get rid of them. Like so. We'll get rid of that one. It's pretty good like that. Get rid of that one. And that one. Get rid of that one. I think there's two right there I don't like. And you can take as much time on this as you possibly want. I actually find it relaxing, so sometimes I'll take quite some time and just sit around and take palm trees out of the sand. Let's get this one out. This one, probably the other ones look good. And we don't have any here. Maybe that one. These couple right here. So there's a few right here sticking through the rocks. We do want to keep an eye on those. There's also some where you'll see the tops of the trees going through the rocks. There's one right there. So you want to kind of keep an eye on those as well. Because when you're playing, they can look a little disturbing. Alright. Actually looking pretty good like that. We got one here. One there, one there, one there. So if we get a sparse area right here, we can always, whoops, push shift. We can always paint a few more back in this area. Maybe one right there. Go back up here. Those are fine. Got some here in the rocks. Some right there. We'll go ahead and paint these. And shift those out off the rocks. that one off the rock. Looks pretty good. Now we're just checking in the... so there's actually some really faint grassy areas like this one, and I will occasionally add one or two if I can get it on there. There we go. There's one right there. That's fine. We got a couple here in the rock. Just take that one out. That one looks good because that's where that... yeah. That's where the blend is, so you can't really tell that that's on the rock. It looks good. And we'll keep going around here like this. Might even add a few more in this area right here and around this. So I just kind of try to cover around any sandy spots that I see. Like so. Maybe one here. Maybe a couple here. Let's see which ones are in the sand. Let's get rid of that one. That one. And I think that one. Those ones look fine. Throw a few more here. Yeah, this is definitely the most fun part of doing all of this. Once you start getting trees in, everything just kind of comes together. That's when you really start seeing that it's a landscape. And not just a bunch of crazy rocks thrown around all over the place for whatever reason. So that works well. Let's go ahead and check these areas here. And we'll get rid of that one there, that one there. Put a couple here maybe. Get rid of that one. Maybe one or two right here. That's good. One there. We'll get rid of that one. Oh, a couple right there I don't like. Put a couple right here. Get rid of that one. Put a couple here. Perfect. So this definitely gets us in a good position. Already starting to look really cool with minimal effort. There was a crossed one there I didn't like. So that does happen a little bit with these palm trees that are just kind of annoying. I usually leave the curved one and take out the straight one because the curved ones just look cool. And I do like that. A couple more here in this spot just to fill that in a little bit more. Very cool, very cool. You know what? We'll actually throw a couple out here. Why not? Little tropical paradise. There we go. So now that actually sets us up pretty good. So if we go back over here and we go back into our selection mode, we're going to go ahead and save everything that we just did. And if we go here and hop around on the beach, let's go ahead and take a look and see what we got. There we go. That's looking better. I am a fan. So you can see the rocks popping in, but they're actually pretty far away. And once you put the trees in, all of the shadows and everything really help it break up where you can't really see that pop in very much when you put it that far. Because, I mean, it's way out there where the pop in is. So that really works for me. So I think that's going to set us pretty good there. So the next things we're going to have to do is start dealing with adding in the bigger trees and stuff like that, which we're not going to paint those in. We're going to actually make those in a procedural volume as well. So another thing you did notice probably is that I did add the... So if we go towards the water, let's go ahead and close this set down. I did add the ocean sounds here. So I have these already set in. So these are just, these actually come with Oceanology. So previously in the older versions, the sound was actually included in the BP itself and it kind of followed you around, which was kind of a pain because if you went into the middle of the landscape, you would still hear it. And there were some things you could do to kind of mitigate that, but it was just a pain. So now they've actually taken it out and just gave you the attenuated queue, so you can just add it. So if you'll see, you just see them, I have them running around the perimeter. But that helps, so if we're out here, you're not going to hear any ocean sounds. But as you approach the ocean, it'll get louder and you'll be able to hear it. So we'll just do a quick run on that real quick. And you can start hearing the ocean pick up. So now it's not quite so high a volume. And the closer you get with the attenuation, it'll get louder. Which is very cool. So we're actually on a pretty good start there right now. So all of these trees, I do have them on nanite, but they all have world position offset, so they're all blowing around in the wind. And that is going to be a little bit of a problem a little later, because that's pretty expensive. So we'll go through a few things a little later on mitigating that a bit, so that it's not quite so expensive to run those. Because once you have a lot of trees and all of them are running world position offset and all of the shadows are being cast dynamically from that, it gets very, very expensive. But for right now, we're going to leave those as they are, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Let's go ahead for the moment, and let's get the rivers in here so we can have that done. And we can start adding in some items in there to kind of break up the water a little bit. So I've already added these lakes in. So these are just the lakes in Oceanology. So if you go down to your Oceanology, go into plugin, and we find our Oceanology, which I can never find. Oceanology, and then you go into design, go into lakes, blueprints, and then you have lakes here. You can just drag it out, and you have this lake here, and all you have to do is scale it up to the size that you want it to be, and then place it, and that's it. So I did that twice. I have one there, and I have another one over here. And I figured I was going to have, for some reason, I was going to have a double waterfall here. I don't know where the water comes from. That's not even the logic on this one. I just decided, screw it, I'm going to put double waterfall. And then we'll have a river coming down here with a little waterfall out into the ocean. So let's go ahead and start that. So when we're dealing with the rivers, so the river does work with landmass, so you can actually have it cut the land away and add the troughs for the river for you. I generally just go ahead and sculpt them in. That's just kind of the way I like to do it. And I already did sculpt in this base. This is just kind of like a representation. This is not exactly how it's going to be. There will be a little bit of fitting it once we get it in there where we like it, and adding in rocks and all that kind of stuff as well. But for right now, this will give us a base of where we want it to be. So we'll go ahead to the Riverology down here on the bottom, because we are going to use Riverology. Go to the advanced, go to the blueprints, and we have our river system right here. And we can go ahead and just rotate this one. So basically this is your route, and this is the direction that the water flow will be coming from, going into that direction there. So it's going to go away from where your route is. So our flow is going down this way, so we want to make sure that our route starts here by our lake and then goes on down to that way. So we're going to grab the river and we're going to hit it right here. So one thing that's very hard, and it doesn't matter what kind of water system you use or how amazing you are at doing water, it's very hard to match rivers sometimes with another water body. So we can actually grab this one and grab the surface scattering, and I have specific colors I'm using and try and match those together to get a much closer representation of the color so that they match together well, but it still has this spot right here where it kind of overlaps. So we can curve it in a little bit to try to mitigate that some, but I found something that I do a little bit more often to kind of hide that seam, which is probably what we're going to end up doing. So let me go ahead and move this back. So my seam area is going to be right here. That works perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and grab this one. And let me find my surface light. Surface light. So I had the absorption on this one here. I'm going to go to this one and try and match that. And my scattering on this one is right here. And match that scattering so that we can get them as close as possible. Generally, I don't even do this. I just make the rivers more of a duller, brown river color. But for now, this will work. Wow, it's really hard to see the cursor on top of this water. So let's go ahead and do that. Like so. And I might actually move this over a little more. I think that was not quite where I want it to be. Let's go ahead and put that there, and then we'll move it over a little more like this. And let's get this river in the direction we want it to be. Go ahead and push G to get our these out here. Rotate that around a little. Bring it over here. Grab that one and bring it over there. And we'll grab that one and pull that one a little more like that. And now we just want to kind of get our depth so you can see we're going downhill and this is still just on the same plane. So we can just grab them and bring them down to whatever plane you want them to be on. I'm actually going to pull these out further so there's more in between each one, because they can get a little bit unruly here where the bend is. Sometimes they can bend in odd angles and kind of give you a little bit of a pinch, which we don't want, especially whenever you scale them up a bit to fit this size of trough that we have here, which we're not going to use the whole thing. So the whole thing is to kind of keep this kind of low. This is going to be not a very deep river. And then once we have the river in, we'll have a better idea of how we need to move this rock and ground in to kind of fit the water in the right place. If we go ahead, we can grab this one, and we'll go ahead and drag out another section, just Alt and drag. And we'll go ahead and bring that down a little bit more as well. And we'll grab another one right over here, like so. And now I believe, yeah, so I'm on the normals for scaling and moving. So now as I drag them, they're going to constantly follow this downward trend that we have going on. I'm going to go ahead and grab this one and bring it out over here. I'm going to rotate that a little bit more. And we'll do that again. But now it's actually going down faster, so we're going to have to do a little finagling to get it where we want it to go. And I might actually have to break out one more. Do a little drop down there, like so. And we just keep on going until we get it to the end where we want it to be. That's way too high. Go ahead and drop this one down. Then we'll drop this one down. And move it over a little more. About like so. And we're almost to the falls. So we'll go ahead and grab this one, drag out another one. And let's get it to the falls here. Perfect. Get us back down to a decent height. And we're going to drag this one all the way to here. We're going to grab us one more. So. And we're going to curve that one up just like this. And that's what's going to give us our waterfall. And that's all you have to do with Riverology to get your waterfall. So we're going to put this one on world now so we can move it to the area we want for the waterfall. So we're getting some weird stretching here, and the reason for that is because we have these 2 points a little bit too close together. So we can grab them and move them around so we can get them right where we want them to be. Move this one back up like this. I have too many there. That's the problem. Okay. So we'll take this one, move this one back up here. So we want this to be in the same line as that. And we can use this handle here to add in our waterfall effect. And then from there, we can bring it back down to match what we have back there. So we can go ahead and move that forward a little bit. So all of this is something we just have to work on until we get it where we want it. Bring this one here. Bring this one over to get it nice, and we want to kind of keep this straight. And then we can grab this handle on this side, pull it up a little bit, go back to our normals. We're going to go back a little bit with it. And then we're going to bring this one out to try and get this this little bulge right there where we want it, going over the fall. Maybe even a little further, just about like that. A little higher maybe. Perfect. I think we're going to need one more in here though. We'll grab this one and we'll just alt click to drag out another one because we want this to be, this looks a little bit too high right now, too deep. And we'll bring that one in. And this one looks really good. Except for this, we need to go up with that. And kind of even that line out. Perfect. Alright, so that gives us the beginning or the basis of our waterfall. So now we're going to go ahead and grab this one and just bring it right through the ground. We might even go a little further forward. And now we can go ahead and make this the width that it needs to be for everything here. We're going to grab this one. And we're actually going to rotate that one just a little bit to match the edge of this water as best we can. From that point. And then we can grab it and widen it out to fill our water in. Let's go ahead and widen that one. And we'll do the same thing all the way down our water edge. That one's a bit high. This is the one that's a bit on the high side. Don't like that too much. So I just want this to be kind of a shallow little river. And that picks up a little back there. Fine. And we'll just keep moving on down with it. So if we pick this one up, down like that. And I have two here for some reason. Let's get rid of that one. Bring you up a little higher. And then we can go back to just widening these out. Must have missed one. And just like that, we have a nice river. This one is a little higher than I would like it. And once again, I have two there. I must be, I think I'm clicking Alt when I'm doing these for some reason. No idea. Let's go ahead and bring that down. We can actually lift the back end up a little bit just to make this part right here deeper while this part gets a little bit more shallow. And we can do this down a little bit and then widen it out. So yeah, this one's a little higher than I want it to be. I want it to be down in a little like that. And then we can grab this one and we're almost home free there. Just about like so. And we can grab our waterfall and do the same. So now we have a nice waterfall there. Actually pull it forward a little bit. About like that. Very cool. All right, that works. Very, very cool. Now we can go and we can actually... we can duplicate this, but we should have done that to begin with. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab it from here. And then we'll start from this side and keep working our way over to there. So if we grab this one, bring this over here, and we'll start it off just like we did the other one. Make sure we're not crazy too high. So one issue I do find, we did actually get that. You see that right there? So we're inside the swim volume or the underwater volume for this one. And we can actually see that if we go to, you have the underwater post volume here. We can see that it's kind of, that wasn't the one. Let me back up real quick. Go to the post process volume here. It's this one. Where's the volume at? So we do have a volume. It should be this one, I believe. No, that's our beach volume, which we actually have to make bigger. Because it wasn't getting these back here. So we can go ahead and reset that real quick, resimulate that. That's fine. Let me see, where is that volume? Alright, so we have our underwater sounds. So you will have to duplicate these. So whenever you, so if we were to play right here, you'll hear your sounds for the water. Like so. But you do have to actually duplicate those down the length of the spline, because it only adds the first one right here in the spline, but there are no others. So you will have to grab those and just, whoops, I didn't want to do that. I just grabbed the whole thing. You will want to go to the river sound and the underwater sound, and you'll want to duplicate those and pull those all the way down the spline like so, or you will run out of sound. And we'll do one more right here. So get this one back down where it needs to be. About like that. All right, perfect. So what we were working on is this volume, and I'm still trying to find which volume it is. Is it this one? I think it's this one. Let me move it out of the way and see. Okay, yes, so it is this one here. Okay, perfect. All right, so we can get the volume, but I'm having a hard time seeing it right now. I think they might be set to invisible, visible, hidden in game. No, and they are set to visible for the volume. This one is... Oh, there you go. Ah, there it is. Alright, so if you go to and you just set the visible, then you'll see it again. So these you do have to actually adjust, and they will be sometimes not where they should be. And you might have to bring them down a bit to match the level of the water so that you don't get that issue again. So I think there's actually one on the other side, and we might hit it here, and we might not. Okay, so this one is right where it needs to be. So that is one thing that you do have to take care of sometime. So now if we go inside this volume, we'll be in the green underwater volume. Perfect. That works just fine. Let's go ahead and click away, and then we'll grab this one. And let's get this put where we want it to be. So we're going to go a little bit higher. Rotate it so it's kind of flush with this one right here. And then we'll grab this one. We're actually going to just go ahead and bring this one all the way out. And we'll do the same thing with this one. And the same thing with this one. And we can go ahead and set in so we have a pretty good incline there where we can bring these down, get them where we want them set. So I don't really want them to be very deep. I don't even want them to be swimmable. They're going to be mostly just kind of maybe waist high. Something about like that. And this is another one that is a little bit tough, is getting this transition here into the ocean. They can be a bit difficult to get right. Let's go ahead and widen that out and see how bad it is. All right, we're getting a bend back here because of this. Let's go ahead up. Grab this one. Let's go to world. Bring this down a bit. Okay, so this is actually almost exactly how I would want it. Believe it or not. So I actually want it to kind of curve down like that. I might actually bring this a little bit more in. But I use items, usually rocks or something like that, to kind of hide this transition where they're connecting together. That's just the way I do it, or the way I find that it works the best for me, to kind of get rid of that transition. Let's get this one back on world. Go back this way a little bit. It's pretty good right there. And we can go back over here and go ahead and set all these up where we want them to be. Not too deep. Or not too shallow, I should say. That's the one we want. That's the one we want to get rid of. Like so. That's pretty good. And this one right here. Okay, so we actually want to go down on this one. So if we grab it here and pull it down, then we can bring this one up and smooth that out a little bit more, because I do want this to go a little bit further down. And maybe even scale it out a little bit more like so. That's fine. This one also, I want to bring it down a little bit. Felt like so. See if we're hitting this edge right here. And we are. A little more here, I guess. All right, perfect. Okay, so we have that in where we want it. We have everything here working the way that we want it. This other double one is going to be quite a bit more difficult, so I'm actually going to do that off screen because we have to start it in the middle on both ways, and that one's a little tougher and will take a bit longer. So for right now, we're gonna call that one okay. But what I like to do here, just to get rid of these seams a little bit, is I actually use well, pretty much whatever I need to be able to get rid of it, since they don't quite match up perfectly. So what I will do is I'll bring in a lot of rocks and a lot of items like that. So I might even steal some from out here. Let's go ahead and grab us a rock real quick. And we'll pull it down here. Let's make it considerably smaller. Oops. Let me actually... what did I do there? Let me get it smaller. Even smaller than that. This is not the rock that I would use for this, but it's going to be our guinea pig for right now. Oops. That works. We have this one right here. This is actually supposed to be narrower like that. And then we can bring these in and build our little dam. And it doesn't really take a whole lot. And like I said, this is generally not the one I use. I actually will use these larger ones like this just for like edging or getting a little bit around a corner or something, so that it's kind of has some rocks already added so it looks like it kind of belongs. Like maybe even something like that. But the one that I would use probably the most is I have some actual beach rocks, not beach rocks, but rocks specifically for this kind of thing. So if I go to the rainforest pack I have here, actually I think I have some of my large rocks here. Yeah, I do use these quite a bit. So this is one of my favorite ones to kind of do this kind of thing. And we also have these, which work really well for doing something like this. Just kind of put those in however you want them to be, and then bring them down a bit. And I think I'm floating. I am. Go ahead and move this one. And I will build the rocks up also around the edges, just to get them where I want them to be. And you can stack these, which is what makes these ones really cool. Oops. I missed it. Something about like that. Move you over here. And we can see where our line is. So we're actually going to want to grab the lake itself, and we're going to want to bring that line so that it's halfway in between. And we'll grab this one, we'll grab this line, and we'll bring that one just so it matches right there. Just about like that. Then we can grab this one. So this will be our base. We can actually rotate it a little bit, get it down so that it goes in the middle section, and this is just to give us something on the bottom that looks like rock and fits where it needs to be. Kind of like that. And then we have a few other ones. So I can, and I use often, let's see if I go into this one. I have some meshes here and I have my rocks right here. And these ones all work really well. This is a very good one for this. And we'll just throw you in there like so. Get you so you kind of match and look like it's where you need to be. And pretty quickly, we can get rid of seams. So there's still that seam area right there. It's very, very hard to get rid of. But we can always stack another. Oops, those are the tiny ones. I don't want those. We can always stack another set of rocks up here. Something for the water to run through. Like so. Yeah, that's kind of the way I do it. There are other ways. It's hard to match these together, but with a little bit of trial and error and just messing with things, you can get it to at least look decent. We can also grab some of our rocks. So if I go back into the, where is it? The large rocks, we can grab, not those. I need the mesh. Our mesh, and we'll go with, let's do static. We can grab like this one, which is one of my favorite ones I've built. Grab all of them like this. No, that's the wrong way. Come on. There you go. Go ahead and stick that up under there. We can actually rotate that so it's a little more like this. And rotate it so it's a little more like that. There we go. Now we got some rock behind it to give it that rock look. And then we can add the rocks that we want for edging it and just for making it look like it belongs. Oops. Where it needs to be. Let me go ahead and scale this one back up the way it was. So this one, yes, this is the one. This one has a really cool edge here. Actually, go about like so. Drop this one down in there like that. Give that nice flow right there going down the way it should be. We can actually grab it and flip it over to the other side. With a little bit more of deviation there like so. And we can get it right down in here. And a little more forward like this. Very cool. One more thing we can do is we can actually grab something like this one. Get a little bit smaller. And tilt it a little. And this one can actually fit You know, I don't like that. Let's do this large rock right here. It's one of my other favorite ones. So we have this one with no moss on it. And we can scale that up a bit. And stick you right in here. Like so. See how bad those are. Yeah, that's pretty good. And after a little while, you can really get it to set. So I actually have one other thing I really like to put in here that kind of sets it off a little. That would be here. We have, I do not have it on that one. I must have it in here. There it is, right there. This is one of my absolute favorite assets. And I just noticed we have water coming out from there, so we can actually just kind of, I think it is up here. Let me go back to G so we can see it. Yes, it is this one. And we can go ahead and just shrink that down a little bit so we don't get the water through there. Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and get out of there. Let's go ahead and hit G and see what we got. So we're actually booking right along here, getting our waterfall in. And we got us a little spot here. We can go down to the bottom. Very cool. Oops. So there's that spot again where we have. So since I put this on an angle, that spot is actually going straight across and it's not contouring with it. So I'm kidding, just like a corner. So we can grab that post-process volume that we had earlier and see where that box is. Yep. So is that the box there? Oh, there it is right there. So you can see how it's poking out here. So we can, that's the wrong one. Let me grab this. And I think that's the wrong one. Yeah, that's the wrong one. We gotta get the underwater box. And straighten it out, and then bring it down. So it's just under the water. So that is something that you do have to set up a little bit when you're going down these hills and stuff, is getting these water volumes in. So I usually set all mine up, but I am going to try and make this one so that the water isn't very deep, so that you're not going to have to worry about swimming. In that instance, I usually just grab them and pull them down below the... So right now they're pretty deep still, little deeper than I want, because I actually want them to be just about waist high, so you don't have to do any swimming in this particular water. So there we go. Yeah, that actually works pretty well the way that is. I'm actually going to go ahead and I think we're going to call it right here on this one, because I've already been going for quite some time. It goes pretty fast when you start doing this. And probably in the next day or so, we'll go ahead and I'll start putting in all the other bushes and stuff, because I like to start with the smaller plants at first and then start moving up to the bigger trees so that I can see what I'm doing. The only ones that I don't do that with really is with the palm trees, just because you put them in there and it kind of gives the feel of everything and gets you more into it. And also they don't really take up a whole lot of real estate. They just take that line more or less. And we'll have a few more peppered here and there in the other water areas, like down by the lake a little bit. But for the most part, the palm trees are done. So we're going to do all the rest of the stuff by volumes and probably a little bit of PCG. So at this point, this is what we're left with. Let me go ahead and get everything off here so you can take a look at it and see what we have going on. And maybe even, let's go about here like so. We'll grab this here and let's see what we get. Get us a nice evening or morning. Morning looks really good. Something about like that. There you go, nice little sunset shot. And we can drop in anywhere. Oops. And take a look at what we got. So there you go. I mean, we really haven't put that much time in working on this. I put most of the time just putting in the rocks, but that's just because that's the way I like to do it. You can do those procedurally as well. I just am very used to putting them one by one just because, I don't know, I'm weird like that. But pretty quickly, we're already starting to get a game. I mean, there's a lot of things we can already do right now. So, like I said, we're going to go ahead and call this for right now since it went as long as it did. And then next time we'll start putting those PCG in for getting all the rest of the foliage set up. And I'll continue working on all the rocks until I get all those done. And then we'll start doing a little bit more around the POIs because a lot of that I like to put in by hand just because I want things in certain spaces, certain places, and PCG and foliage volume, stuff like that don't really put things in precise locations. So we'll deal with that. And I got a few assets I'm going to throw on just so you can see what they look like in that, to get that POI feel and look to it. But for right now, I think this is gonna do us, and I'm starting to get pretty ready here. I mean, this is getting pretty complete as far as just getting a landscape that's working and put together. So I will leave you with that, and you know what time it is? I'll see you guys on the next one.